Hi, this is Carolyn. What I'm about to share with you is a webinar that I did for the Ranking Factory guys and their members that use their software. So it was over an hour and I did a little splicing and dicing to kind of con, condense it down to the presentation of the schema testing that I had done last month. And in it, I am working to answer the question, can a blank page be indexed using schema alone? So it's a series of 4 tests, and the condensed version is 25 minutes, and I walk you through an actual test write-up in the method that I was taught and the way that most of the SEO testing groups run their write-ups in order for peer review. So this was presented, and I will put the actual test URLs in the description. I will put a link to the crawl or no crawl indexation group that I run on some Substack. It's $18 a month, but the value is far greater than the cost because I don't just share data, I actually put it together so it's information that you can use on a daily basis if you are working to get content in or constantly submitting content into Google to get it indexed. I will also put the link to my podcast, Confessions of an SEO, and to the new indexing service that is an outgrowth of the indexation research, indexzilla.io. And I'll put that link down in there as well. And then I do mention about a PDF of the write-up of the test that you can get it. And I will put that link in there. It's on American Way Media on the index detector page. But again, check the description for links. I hope you enjoy it. So if we are ready to start, I can start.
All righty.
The goal here is not so much to train everybody to be a tester. Frankly,
That's why
most,
we have you.
well, but
But
most
some
of
people like to test, so it's cool.
some people do, right?
Yeah,
But it's
yeah, yeah.
rare, and that's the point. Is that if you see this, it's kind of like when people are taught, how to play an instrument in school. They're not all destined to go and that be their career and live their life on the stage, right? Because there needs to be people in the audience that appreciate what they're doing and get something out of it. So in testing, if let's say if there's 28 people that are going through a test and learning a test, there's probably only one that can't sleep at night because they're thinking about that test. Because they're thinking about, what if I did this? What if I did that? And when you find people who like to test, it's really a good idea to listen to them. However, with a caveat, you do have to understand testing so that you can understand what types of questions to ask. Testing is nothing if there isn't peer review. And that means other people who understand testing looking at what you did, how you did it, when you did it, and what happened, and then have questions back and forth. So when someone tells me I've run a test, my first question is, what was your hypothesis? What are you testing? 9 times out of 10, it's really more like a field observation setup because they have so many factors that are in the mix that they can't isolate the one thing they're testing. And so that's what I'm going to show today is looking at it and like, how do you isolate that one factor? And we're going to do it with schema. There's, a lot of stuff going around saying that you can rank a page only using schema. So
Oh, we've seen that happen, haven't we? Or no?
we have seen people publish a page.
Hmm.
But I don't think we've seen a test on schema the way that it was described to us.
Gotcha.
It was described that we were going to have a blank page. Now, to me, that's a
Blank page.
blank page. So I'm going to show you the test using blank pages, and I'm going to we're going to have an answer on one aspect of that, and then I'll share with you the other stuff. So, but the idea here is, at the end of this, like if anybody wants to run their own schema test, I'm going to give you my HTML. I'm going to give you, if you want, a copy of the write-up, and you can follow it. Use exactly, modify your schema to whatever it is that you're working on. But it's really more so that you guys can develop maybe some critical eyes and ears when you hear someone say they ran a test, is knowing what questions to ask. And so part of in the I've been in testing since 2015. I've been in all the testing groups, and there's write-ups and things that when you know what questions to ask, it also gives people who are testing the chance to take all their little things out of their head and write them down, because you don't want to assume anything when you're running a test. You have to think about it. And very often, the time you find out that you have made an assumption is when you go through a peer review and someone says, did you account for this? And then you're like, I didn't, So it's all sorts of, it's a learning experience. It's a joyous thing for me. But if you feel like you can't be wrong, um, it might not feel so good to you, because testing, when you look at the data, you really want to look at it in an agnostic way, right? It's not just, well, how does this get me to page one? It's kind of like,
Right.
well, but if you understand this, there are these principles, there's a lot of things you can apply it to. So you don't necessarily develop tactics as much as you do methods of working with principles. Okay.
Very cool. I like the sunglasses too. They're cool.
Very nice. Okay. Where are we? Okay. So I'm just going to go through the write-up. Like I say, if you want a copy of this, I'll tell you where to go get it, and on that. So um, this is the primary question, right? Can a blank page get indexed and served using only schema? Now, if you're going to do a test, you have to come up with a question. And then you have the fun of saying, what do you think? Like you go here. So my hypothesis is that that it will get indexed and served. There's no penalty if I'm wrong. It's only like I just taking a stand. Now, then there's the background information. Now, this is formally written up as a test write-up, but you have to, even if you're doing something that you have no intention of sharing, right? So you want to test on something and find out. So you have to identify, what are the pieces? What kinds of things am I bringing into this that are not part of this test, but maybe, principles or aspects that are baked in. So we understand schema markup, structured data. We use it because we're told that search engines can really benefit from this. Plus, we've seen, how those rich snippets occur, and everybody wants a rich snippet.
Hmm.
But ultimately, the purpose in our markup is to help Google recognize the entities that are in our content, because we do know that they have their knowledge graph, which is kind of like how everything relates to everything. That's their goal, right? They want to be able to organize the world's information. So they utilize a knowledge graph to do so. So some relations are going to be very strong, some are going to be weak, very far distance from each other, but Google is going to be able to make those connections and those leaps with the help of Schema. Now, what's interesting about Schema testing is that you have to be able to isolate what you're testing and ideally do it with an entity that Google doesn't know anything about. I'll go through that. You'll see why I picked what I did. So I have a new indexer on the market. It's called Indexilla. It is really an unknown entity to to Google in terms of connecting it from like the name of it to what it does and to where people will find it. So I'm going to describe the test setup. So we've come up with a hypothesis. I've given you a little background, like why am I looking at this? And now I'm going to tell you the test setup. I'm going to show you the URLs. This usually doesn't happen in testing. People showing you the URLs and doing it in a venue like this where we're recording. So what I did was I set up a subdomain on a domain I had because I thought I don't need to spend any more money during the holidays. So I'm going to put that URL in the chat. You're more than welcome to go there. And when you go there, if you go there, can anybody tell me what they see here?
My page.
Blank page. Okay. So you would think
Nada.
like, what the heck is this? All right.
It's a
So
whiteout, baby. It's a whiteout. Whole
right,
lot, like
snow.
whole lot of nothing.
It's snow. Okay. So this is, and again, I just took a chunk of schema. So this is a software application since it it made sense. And so I filled it all out, validated it, so I knew that it was correct. Um, and that's it. So here's why it's blank is like in between these body tags,
No
there's
content.
nothing in there. So, all right. So the question was, can we index and rank a blank page that only has schema?
For some people, who are looking at this later, what do you mean by rank?
Serve.
Okay. Okay. So it
Right.
shows, in other words, you're saying that it will show up.
Yes. And all of these are connected into uh, Search Console. So we're going to be looking at the Google data on this. So, and basically, again, I'm doing this with an unknown entity. So this is not my company
Mhm.
name. There's a reason why I didn't pick that. This isn't a well-known software game because again, it's going to be something that Google knows about. So I truly, this is part of the isolating the factors
The brand
that
new
I,
baby nobody knows about,
right, exactly.
except the
So
mother.
right, right. So the idea here is I am limiting the number of factors so that I'm solely testing the presence of schema, nothing else. So, all right. So you saw that, and the title tag is in there because I know from previous testing and from observation that if you don't have a title tag, you are not ever going to make your way into the index. So we knew it was important. I've seen some things and tested some things that tell me, yeah, it's really important. Okay. So again, I'm copy like this is again official write-up. So I'm doing it in a very, methodical way. Also, it has a sitemap of the homepage of this subdomain. And these are the test dates. Now, one of the things that's useful about knowing when a test is run is updates. We found that very often, especially, like I was mentioning before, when you're involved in an update, you can't really believe the order of everything that you find. Is it always, in that order? So that's why that's in there. It's just good practice. So here are the results. Guess what, people? You can get a blank page indexed with Schema by itself. And that's the good news. Here's the bad news. You cannot get it served. You cannot get it to where it makes that jump. There's 4 subsystems underneath, really 3 that you can measure. So it got crawled, it got indexed.
Did
It
you
did
zoom
not
in a
get
little bit so
served.
people could see the tabs there?
Oh, yeah. Where is my view?
You could just hit plus something.
Yeah,
A little bit more.
there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still hard to see the tags on the top of it, but sorry.
Let me see.
What do you got? 24/7 day. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Thank you.
There we go. So the page is indexed, and as you can see here, the dates are like I told you, right? So my data should line up with what I've previously said. Now, there we go. That's for not being served. So now we get to what is my analysis? What can I make of this? Is there anything I can use this on? And so we've found that it seems that Schema alone will get it indexed. I softened it here just because I think it was late in the afternoon. But given that there's no delivery of that page in the search results for that term, it would appear that it doesn't, in and of itself, rank or serve a page. Now, usually at this point in this is like a peer review, questions start coming up because it's like, well, what if the schema needed the URL to have something a little more related specifically to the entity? Or what if it needed to be in the title? Or did it need both? So usually what ends up happening when you're testing is that you birth more testing. It's rarely once and done. So it seems that there may be other things that we need in our content for Google to connect the dots. And historically, we know about URL keywords in the URL. The reason they help, I believe, is because when you have source code, and let's say you've even uploaded an image uh, for that page, the URL of that image is even going to have the domain URL in there, typically, depending on how you're coding. So that's why I think it matters in the URL. And we also know, like I say, the title page. So the conclusion to this was I need to do more testing, which I did. So now I've refined my question, and it's like, well, can it get served, right? I know it can get indexed, but can it get served if I put the target in the URL? If I put what it is that I want Google to rank this for? So again, the hypothesis, because I'm an optimist. Okay, it's going to work. And my background information obviously is what I learned in my first test and previous tests where I learned about source code presence of keywords. So here again, and I'll put this in the chat. Terry Power, you're here. Terry is a tester. All right. Okay. So I did the same thing. I set up another subdomain on the same domain, created a HTML page with nothing in the body, added the indexilla into the URL, and I did switch out the title on the title tag because I didn't want two pages with the same title tag in that Google had access to. Ah, that's not what I want. Where is it? All right. So you can see what I did there. I just did software. But I did not change the schema because if I changed the schema, that would introduce a new factor. So the only thing that I changed was adding in the title and of course putting it on a different domain, but it's a subdomain. All right. So the setup, same schema, also has a sitemap, put it in Search Console, and the test dates are from December 29th to now. Well, guess what? It still gets an index. Okay, great. Now, oh crap. Not in the search results. So now I get to go back to the drawing board. I didn't get anything different, right? The results were the same, even though I changed that one factor. So now I want to see what if I needed to isolate the title tag. Maybe the title tag takes precedence over that as a URL. So I changed my question, can it get served by using schema plus? Oh, I meant to say that one in the title. Here we go. So here we go. New hypothesis. And again, I'm an optimist. So background is everything I learned in test 1 and 2. Here's the new URL. And let me share that. So kind of do this. Again, I'm confirming this is a blank page. I look in the source. You can see here that in the title, I've added that. Okay. Did everything else, sitemap, Search Console, same dates. Again, we get the same result in terms of indexation. And we get the same result with the served.
Ooh.
Terry.
You didn't like those results, Terry?
I like the test.
Okay, cool. I know. You can't fall in love with the results, right? You just have to do it. All right. So now I need to know, are both necessary? So now I'm in test 4. So reformulate my question. Now you can see I have learned from my ways. So I'm going to say it's not going to change. So my background information is everything from test 1, 2, and 3. The setup is the same. I now have this, and let me share that in the chat. You can again check it out, and you will see once again, we have a blank page. Okay. So test dates. So you can see like even by the dates, I didn't do one week, do one another week, do 1, 2, 3 weeks later, because there potentially are things that could have occurred that might have a bearing on the results. So again, that's the value of putting the dates in there. All right. So yay. Ooh. All right. So now that is the last of the tests on this, but obviously we know it's enough to get a page indexed. And now we can talk about other possible factors that we need to look at because, you know, perhaps schema by itself on a single piece of content is not sufficient enough to communicate to Google about an unknown entity. I know that's stating the obvious, but even here we had 4 pieces of content and a couple of weeks. So then the other thing is maybe there's not enough schema on the page. So that's another avenue of testing that I'll be doing. How many people have seen a test write-up?
I mean, an actual
An
dig
actual
deep
test write-up?
test?
Yeah, like
No,
this type of thing.
other than you, no.
Okay.
Nobody
And
else digs into the weeds and shares that information with us, right?
well,
No.
see, and this is why I am
Come on, everybody answer.
the idea of this is like when I said in the beginning, the goal is not to make everybody a tester. The goal is really to show you what testing, the effort that has to go into testing, but the essential aspect of asking questions, not taking everything at face value. It doesn't mean you're confrontational. It just means, you're basically coming up and asking, is there any other reason why this would have turned out that way? Oh, let me see. Oh, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
It's on American Way Media, and this is my indexer. This was the old indexer detector when I was sharing freely, literally every day. Here's where, if you want to get that, the PDF, you can just go there and click it. So I'll put that in the chat. If you want to test your own stuff, just go to any of those URLs and go view source. And if you know how to copy and paste, you're there. Now, again, you don't have to use this. This is a type of schema, and schema has many types. Local business is the one most people are familiar with. So I thought it might be fun just kind of mix it up a little bit. So so test what you want, but it would be, again, only if you're inclined, and don't feel bad if you don't feel inclined. It's fine. It's not really for everybody, but for me it was I can't describe it other than love at first sight, because it meant that I could answer my own questions without having to find out because we, like I say, we all hear the loudest person in the room, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have data. So I trust data, and I want to know that whoever's testing, like, I might ask them questions like, tell me your setup. It's not that I'm newsy. I just kind of need to know in order to put some value in what they're telling me. And if it's someone I know, who I know knows how to test, I do sort of expect that they've held themselves and every other test they've seen to the same standards.